uses of cannabis, James B. Bacalar and I asked patients to share their experience with cannabis as a medicine for our book, Marijuana, the Forbidden Medicine. We supplemented these anecdotal patient accounts with our own clinical experience and what we could glean from medical literature. Anecdotal evidence is not as persuasive as that from double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, the more scientifically sound modern medical approach to the safety and efficacy of new therapeutics. As the results of such studies become available, we may be compelled to modify our estimate of the clinical usefulness of cannabis. At this time, however, it is difficult to imagine that future studies will subtract much from the clinical, experience-driven perception that cannabis is a remarkably versatile medicine with little toxicity. It is my intention to roughly follow the same format in the Uses of Marijuana project. While I will attempt to illuminate the various uses of cannabis through literary accounts and sharing some of my own experiences, the prime source of what I hope will be a fairly comprehensive understanding of the uses of this versatile drug will come from contemporary users. Some will identify themselves, others will prefer to remain anonymous for reasons that have already been noted. Either way, I hope to present enough information about the witness to put his or her account into a meaningful context. Unlike medicinal use, which will eventually be fit in scientific costume, an understanding of those uses which fall into this category of enhancement will probably always be based on anecdotal accounts. It is unlikely that marijuana's capacity for the enhancement of sexual pleasure, for example, will ever be the subject of a modern scientific double-blind placebo-controlled study. However, if this ethnographic method is successful, we should be able to provide a reasonably proximate picture of the varieties and value of cannabis use in contemporary society. And in so doing, we cannabis users can make a significant contribution to the demise of cannabinophobia, one of our age's most damaging popular delusions. In the meantime, Betsy and I are gradually being given the opportunity to explore another dimension of the ways in which cannabis can be valuable. We are discovering its usefulness in the task of achieving reconciliation with the aging process, including coming to terms with the inevitable physical and emotional aches, deficits, and losses. Cannabis also enhances our appreciation of the time we have, now that we are both emeritus, to enjoy our children, grandchildren, and friends, literature, music, and travel, and our daily walks in the New England woods. Of still more importance, it helps to realize the wisdom of Robert Browning's words, "Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be." Thank you.
There's a use in healthcare for marijuana that a lot of people might not be aware of. As a healthcare giver, you might. My wife, Cheryl, is the one down furthest in the wheelchair, and she has MS for 30 years. As far as the healthcare goes, she uses it for spasticity and pain. I used it recreationally since 1970, but it became more than that when I realized that as things get tougher with her, if she sees me crack a little bit, she's going to look at a man that loves her. They can't handle it. So what happened, like now, see, but this can't happen in private when I'm taking care of her. So what I do is, when I'm in it up to my elbows and I can't stand it, I tell her I got a minute. I light my little pipe, I say, not yet. I light it again, I say, not yet. And eventually I light it and I say, I'm going in, and I turn on the music, and I take care of her, and she sees me having the good time I should be having for having the privilege of taking care of her and not cracking. So I use it, if that's medicinal, I guess it is in a secondhand sort of way, but that's the way a lot of people might feel.
I can't tell you how much I have admired you and your wife. It's a wonderful story.
Well, that's just Grinspoon. That's a privilege. Your story, I really relate to the whole thing about your cherry trip. And I was just wondering, as an unscientific poll here, if people would raise their hands, how many people did not get off and had to learn how to get high? Because I, for one, really relate to that. It is amazing that they are arresting people for a drug you have to learn.
Someone said, you wimps. Yes.
Actually, I'm going to speak for all the ladies here. It's we're from Europe and
Well, the U.S. government has to confront that fact. Only terminal illness is
It's all medical, isn't it?
No. It depends on how you define medical.
You know, two quick things. 3 years ago, I had a heart attack and bypass surgery, what's called a successful heart attack. I'm still here.
And you gave a wonderful lecture.
You, I mean, but it's very helpful.
Louder, please.
Anyway, the appreciation of life, you touched on that in your talk, but after you've had a life-threatening experience, to be able to wake up each morning, you have a different appreciation of life, and the use of cannabis makes you appreciate that even more. You know, the deep colors, the sense of time, and it's fabulous. And one other thing I wanted to say about medicinal marijuana, and I see about 20 patients a week myself. I can't believe the diversity of people. I can't believe how they come from all walks of life and all ages. And what is so moving and so upsetting is the number of people that start crying because they now can legally use cannabis. And I thank you for your pioneering work that you're doing.
First, I wanted to tell you, Dr. Grinspoon, that I love you. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate on behalf of free human beings in an unfree country and people who have experienced it in a medicinal use for what you've done for us.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I mean, if
I thought you had said it
go.
all when you said you love me. But
On a more serious note, however, in regards to medicinal use, I was arrested for essentially trying to save my own life. I have depressive illness. A lot of people in the mainstream are starting to understand that this can be life-threatening. And for my mother, it was a terminal illness. She committed suicide in 1990. And a lot of times I can't help but to think that if she had marijuana, she might still be here.
Probably proud of me.
I'm sure she is. She must be pretty proud. I would like to say thank you for giving us hope and to not be afraid.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if people can hear you without the microphone. You got a big voice?
Yes.
I do. We discussed medicinal and recreational
But if I may pay my respects to and quote the emperor himself, paper, fiber, food, fuel,